Hey guys, it's Jason. Welcome back to my garage and episode 2 on the Cayenne, and this is going to be the dreaded transmission fluid and filter change. This procedure is not your typical easy DIY oil change or even like a transmission fluid and filter change on, say, a GM 350 or something like that transmission. It's a little bit difficult. If you go to the dealer, they charge about $1,000 to do this. So if you don't want to feel like you just came from a proctologist, stay tuned. We're going to be changing the transmission fluid and filter on this car. I want to talk a little bit about why it's a difficult procedure. The biggest problem is you have to have a way of monitoring the automatic transmission fluid temperature. Now, what I'm going to be doing is using Durametrics, which is a cable and software package that I bought from Durametrics, the guys out on the West Coast. It's a great program, and it allows me to interface with the modules inside the Porsche. And I can monitor the fluid right there on the laptop. So I'm going to employ the use of a helper. It would be extremely difficult to do this on your own. So I highly recommend that you have a helper and they can read out the temperatures for you as the temperature increases. So the biggest problem with this is on the refill procedure. The way you fill this car is not like maybe other transmissions you're familiar with where you just fill it in from the top and you have a dipstick. There is no dipstick. The way this transmission is full is when fluid is pouring out of it at a certain temperature, 40 degrees Celsius in the case of the Cayenne. So you constantly have to be shooting fluid up into the transmission, and it's just inherently messy because the only way to know if you've got enough in it is to watch it drain out. There's only so many catch cans you can put down to catch overrun and stuff, especially while you're working under it. So a tech tip, make sure you have a lot of newspapers or cloths or something on hand because it is a very messy job no matter how careful you are. So let's talk about all the things that you're going to need to do this procedure. First and foremost, you're going to need your fluid. What I'm going to be using is the automatic transmission fluid, the Type 4 from Toyota. I've seen a couple of Blackstone lab reports that show this is identical to the OEM fluid that came in the car. Now, if it makes you feel better to buy the OEM fluid, certainly go ahead. This is $6 a quart. I believe that stuff is somewhere around $60 a liter. So you can see how much that adds to the cost really quick. The other parts you're going to need are, of course, your filter and a new gasket and O-ring. Now, what I did was I went to ECS Tuning and bought mine. They're much cheaper than the dealer. They're really great guys. They got my parts right away, and everything is OEM. So check them out if you need that. Okay, so let's talk about the tools we're going to need. You're going to need a T40 Torx bit for the drain plug. You're going to need a 17mm Allen key for the fill plug. Now, just a warning, this thing is on very tight, so I would definitely use a 4-foot cheater bar. You can try an impact gun, but I doubt that's going to do it. I tried. A recommendation from a friend of mine who's a 30-year Porsche mechanic was that you put a big cheater bar on it and you whack it really fast and really hard. I was able to get it loose after about 4 or 5 times doing that. So just be aware of it. People have stripped that fill plug, and you want to make sure you take that fill plug out first, or at least get it loose before you start taking your pan off. So you're also going to need a 10mm socket to remove your transmission pan bolts. And you're going to need a special tube that fits up inside the fill tube in the pan to squirt the transmission fluid when you're filling. Now, there's a special Porsche unit that you can buy. I elected not to do that, and I built my own. I used a vacuum tee and just cut one of the nipples on the tee off so it would fit up in the hole and cap the other end. You'll see it later on in the video. And in this video, I'm not going to cover how to remove the underbody panels. If you need to see that, please click the link above and check out my other video on the Cayenne, which was the oil change procedure, where I show exactly how to remove the body panels and put them back together. Okay, so now that we know everything we need to do, let's get the Cayenne up on the lift and get started. Using a T40 Torx bit, remove the drain plug and allow the Cayenne's transmission oil to drain out. Next, you'll want to remove the 10mm transmission pan bolts, but first remove the 17mm fill plug, as it could prove difficult if you take the pan off first. Next, you'll want to remove the three 10mm transmission filter bolts. Then simply pull the filter out. Once the pan's removed, make sure to clean it and the magnets thoroughly. Next, remove the old transmission pan gasket and install your new one. I went with Porsche OEM to make sure I had a good fit.
And the new gasket will go right in place. Our O-ring. And there it is.
Next, remove your new O-ring and put it on your new transmission filter. Carefully reinstall the filter. Now this is a tricky step, so make sure you don't damage the O-ring when you reinstall.
Just like that.
Next, reinstall your three 10mm filter bolts. Before reinstalling the pan, make sure the mating surface is extremely clean. Then carefully reinstall the pan back into place. Next, reinstall all the transmission pan bolts and torque them to spec. Next, using a special hose, initially fill the transmission with as much fluid as it can take. When fluid starts to run out, we are done with the initial fill. Then we're ready to move inside the car and monitor the temperature. This initial fill usually is around 4 quarts. With the key in the accessory position, install the Durametrics cable into the OBD2 port. Then connect the other end of the cable to your computer. When Durametrics is opened, you will select the type of car you're working on. In my case, the 955 Cayenne. After starting the vehicle, select the transmission module for the left-hand menu. Then select actual value and make sure the ATF temperature is selected. As you monitor the ATF fluid temperature, continue to add fluid from underneath the car. For this step, it's best to have a helper. Continue adding fluid until it overflows and the temperature is 40 degrees Celsius. At that point, the system is considered full. Reinstall the fill plug and torque to spec.
Okay guys, that's it. That's episode 2 on the Cayenne and how you change the transmission fluid and filter.
If you made it this far, congratulations, you've saved yourself a boatload of money and you know the job was done right. I want to take a minute and thank all my subscribers, and to those of you that just stumbled across the video, click the link above and become a subscriber. I hope you enjoyed the video, and until next time, I'll see you right back here inside my garage.